Good afternoon to everybody.
Good afternoon, and hello to everybody, too.
They have to see and do before they really know.
It really makes you appreciate your home, where you come home, where you come from.
I think we'd like to try to keep this place going for our kids and our grandchildren.
The past few years, I've been focusing on the songs and our names and trying to, talk about our families.
Anaklit ko kaluit. Anaklit. That big one of kalu. Diba? Ay ko. Emma, kapasaro ka cake pito bra? Hawk mo nga Campbell Creek mo akabit upinakato man. Adi nga ki kalung nuluk iya. Nagayak to ko sa mga nagalaw sa kanira kaya ko ta. Nagayak to. Kukiro. Hindi ko ba halumay ko rakpitik?
Akero ni. Kago makero. Ilan ni manik pang magpakatsukala ito nga kero.
My name is Marie Jacobson. I work here at the Inuvialuit Cultural Resource Center, and I work with school teachers and the community as like a liaison. My title is Inuvialuit Language Consultant, but I think I'm more like the officer. In my eyes, a consultant is the elder specialist.
Muriki wo kaktak ana ninyo man.
Mia. Arga.
Yeah.
Sarah.
Kami kilabulunin na kurok. Arga inyo peya. Inyo peya.
I see myself where I've advanced, in my language. When I first started, I was like shy. I wouldn't really want to talk or try. I'm like, I really have to think about, what to do, what to say, But now it seems easier.
Nice.
And I'm excited about that.
Inuvalog to ukalay to ten.
Kina? Huh?
Ilat ni danik to ukap to ten hook.
Yeah. Sabi mo rakbay yung takita.
Mutakat kinalurut.
Mutakat na luluting tayo nakatiktan mo ra ka na akawitik.
Yeah.
Ako radyan tan mo rin ipel. Apa ne?
Yeah.
Right?
Dahil mga ka nga okachin ato kakatakap ko tabra huli pang mapakatok.
Yeah. Arigay niyo peno kakak to nice.
I grew up with my grandparents, Dora and Johnny Maligana, and they spoke the language. Actually, I spoke English to them. I replied in English. That was a mistake. I don't understand why it was that way. It was accepted. My mom, all of her generation spoke English, but there were always elders coming over and visiting, and I was really exposed to it.
Ili hakawit ema, inyo petun ukal labit ili hakawing ni?
Nani?
No.
Ili hakawing?
No. Aray,
Ukalay chuk.
Wak chok pa da agad rin yung bedon o kakane of the
He punishes in a corner.
pani.
We always get punished.
I always wondered why nobody my age, our parents, weren't speaking to their kids. The only time they ever did it was in secret, if they wanted to speak amongst themselves, like secretly, maybe arguing or disagreement, When I was growing up, we were just really made to know that we weren't allowed to speak our language. But in my mom's day in the residential school, she said they were actually beaten for speaking their language. I don't know why I lost mine so fast, just in 1 year. My very first year, I was 7 years old when I went to residential school. And it just took that 1 year. I went home the following summer, and I never ever forget, I was in the house with my granny. Her name was Maggie Allen. We heard a boat coming from a long distance, and she asked me in Inuvialuktun to fill up the kettle and put it on a stove. I could hear visitors coming in the language. And I was just kind of stunted for a second, and I turned around and looked at her, and she looked at me, but she looked at me with really sad eyes. Like, I'll never forget that. Really, really sad eyes. And she goes, and then she asked me in Inuvialuktun, did you already forget your language? And I understood that part. And I said yes to her. She was so sad that I couldn't understand just a short little sentence like that. Let's read through them. Tautuktunga. Atuktunga. Nerirunga.
Today, Donna is an Inuvialuktun teacher at East 3 Elementary School in Inuvik, and very much part of the force fighting for the survival of the language. She assisted teacher Sandra Ipana and Clara Day for 10 years before taking on teaching 3 years ago. As a talented artist, she created teaching materials that reflected her love of her land and culture.
I grew up on the land, raised up by my grandparents, and I was totally living in the culture. I think that really helps me in the classroom. So whenever I create material, and when I was assisting Mrs. Ipana and Mrs. Day, and I used to create material for them, I always tried to do the illustrations with lots of meaning from our culture. Like, it had to be our style of clothing, the color of our skin, the way our kids fix their hair, and the surroundings around us, like the Delta area with the skinny little trees and, lots of water, and the food we eat, the types of food we eat. And I think that's the part of my job that I really enjoyed.
Like many Inuvialuktun teachers of her generation, Donna is not fluent in the language. She learns as she teaches.
He or she is sleeping.
At first, she was afraid of teaching.
And I was so happy, when Clara would be really busy doing report cards or the beginning of a new lesson and lots of planning and stuff. Whenever I knew she had a heavy workload, I would say to her, well, just work at your computer and let me teach the class. Just to get the feel of it. And I found it, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't as scary as I thought it would be.
Since then, Donna has upgraded her teaching credentials and makes the best of having Elder Mary Allen advising her in the classroom.
This morning we're reading out of this book. We're just having fun with it. Mary, huh? And then I have an elder that works with me in here. Her name is Mary Allen. So whenever I make mistakes or I need a key word to finish my sentence, she's there to help me. So I have lots of help. I'm so lucky. And then the big bonus is I love teaching and I love working with children. So with all that together, I am able to teach the Inuvialuktun language with the help of my elders. And of course, Mrs. Ipana is just down the hallway. Whenever I'm stuck and I don't have anybody here, I can just run down the hallway and ask her a few questions. Pick up the phone, phone some elders.
Inuvialuktun, with its 3 dialects, Umamute, Kangirmute, and Siglig, is in peril with a majority of native speakers passing away and English being the main language for education and communication in the Inuvialuit settlement region. According to studies by the Inuvialuit Cultural Resource Center, only 10% of an estimated 4,000 Inuvialuits speak any form of traditional language, and only about 4% use it at home. Anna Pingo, Inuvactan teacher at East 3 Secondary School, has a similar experience. She came into teaching as an assistant and found her passion. With a bachelor's in education, she came back to the school and finds ways to work around not being a fluent speaker. She's so fervent about being able to converse in the language that she even began praying for divine assistance a few years ago.
I'm going to believe in my prayer that I'm going to learn my language and I'll be able to have conversations with elders. No sooner than I said that prayer, I had a dream about an elder. I dreamt about Emmanuel Felix. And he came to me in my dream and he started to speak to me in the language. And I looked at him like after giving him a hug. And I was holding him like this on his shoulders. And I said, Emmanuel, you're speaking to me in Inuvialuktun. And he said, that's because you asked for it. And he was speaking to me in the language. And I said, I can really understand you. And then he kept talking to me in the language and he grabbed my hand and we started walking. And as we were walking, there was elders all around where he brought me to and they were all speaking in the language. And I looked, I said, they're all speaking in Inuvialuktun too and I could understand them. And he said, that's because you asked for it. I was talking to my husband's aunt, Agnes White, and she says, you know what, that's so fitting that you dreamt about him first because he was so passionate about the language. He always said we have to hang on to our language. And you know what, that night I kind of had a little cry and told myself, thank you. I got to keep being thankful that, the language is still there and that's how I'm going to be getting it. Pay attention to my dreams and I'll learn more. And then I had another dream. I remember the elders that were visiting with me and all of a sudden I heard my husband say, good morning, it's time to get up. And I look over to him, I said, gee, why did you wake me up? You just disturbed my Inuvialuktun lessons. Oh.
Ano ko din na ukauchin pigong itpil.
Biyok sararaki ay guptaan abot kanga kanyang ni sutin yung pesa tanik na.
Ano mo kihin niya agilan sa maskopta ako to kanata.
Yeah.
Tanik yun kanga kayay peak to ta.
Nani kanga kanyang. Elta programming ibeno kakaulit. Elta programming.
It's scary knowing that there's no one left. What happens if they're gone?
I tried so hard to keep my language when I went to residential school. And plus my grandmother, Alice Annakto, Sivoloak, her name is, everybody knows her as Sivoloak. And as far as I could remember from way back when we first moved to Inuvik, first thing that she told me, not to forget my language. It belongs to me. And I am who I am with my language, my tradition and culture. She told me that in Inuvialuktun. So that's why I thought to myself, this is what I'm going to work on. It empowered me to keep my language. And when I went home in the summertime, I was really careful about talking my language. I never spoke one word in English. I would never want to speak in English because I would get, somebody would tell me, what, you became somebody else? So I was getting heck from this side and that side. But I was really fortunate. I'm one of the fortunate people to still have my language. Years ago, when I first came to Inuvik, there's a lot of us could relate to what I'm saying. When we first came to Inuvik, I couldn't go uptown, all bushy hair and dirty clothes or anything. A lot of them had running water and everything. Us, we didn't. We lived down in frame tents for years, 3-4 years maybe. We had to live in a tent frame with cardboard paper around it I never forget that, trying to get yourself cleaned up to go to school and everything. It was really hard because you didn't have a shower. You just had to have a bath once a week on Saturdays with all the kids that had bath because we had to haul lots of water. Yeah, I thought to myself, what am I doing? Who tells me how to look? Who tells me how to talk? Who's telling me what to do in my life? I'm living just exactly how they want me to live, not my own self. So that's when I stopped. Then I thought, okay, here I come.
Lillian says having the connection to her family and culture made her strong.
When I think back now, we didn't have the fancy blankets they had today, but it didn't mean nothing to me, as we had caribou skin for mattress even in the wintertime. But I still felt rich because there was family around all the time. Today, a lot of them just don't have their families around them all the time. You know, a lot of us learn how to cope, and yet a lot of us couldn't cope with that because already when we were in school, we were mistreated. And in this world, there's lots of people that mistreat you, look down on you and say, you know, I don't want to be with that person, not well off enough, or, you know, not good enough. And that's not what my grandparents taught us, and that's what I taught my students. I taught my students that there's no one that's better than you, and you're not better than anybody in this world. Yes. Emma, kano ko tiniliharing pit ilihakabing me.
Ilahring oktong ilakan with my gift. With you know, coaching ilanik, but radio can natigon by machine. Inge natigon. We put tanik takan in your pen, come on. You know. Upa, take go. Lea, nikiruratan. And tawsak malaw pingajuk tamat kuan.
Anna and Donna both overcame their own shyness to help students gain their courage to speak the language. Students sometimes hold back from speaking for fear of being made fun of by others.
Inuvialuktun language is really hard, especially when you don't speak fluently, all the guttural sounds and the throat sounds and the cl sounds, you know, and it's a hard language. And some of the words are quite long, you know, just to say one little two-word sentence, like the word is so long. Happy birthday.
Thanks.
When we sing songs, it's easier too to pick up the language because you're enjoying the song so much, you don't realize that you're not even trying to say the words. And yeah.
That's amazing.
Sometimes I even bring my guitar in here, but I shut my door. Shut my door and we just sing and sing and sing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have this song that I really like to sing. It's by Celine Dion.
No.
And I sing it whether I, walk around my class and walk by those students to let them hear that I'm singing along with her. Mm-hmm. And I said, and you know what? I don't even know how to speak French. I said, but the power of song, I said, you listen to our Inuvialuktun songs, we'll be able to start pronouncing those words and learning how they're supposed to be pronounced. Yeah. And I said, so listen to our Inuvialuktun songs, practice our songs.
Anna also memorizes the students' Inuvialuktun names and uses that for roll call instead of using the English attendance sheets provided by the school.
I really try to instill in my students, share your name and be proud of who you're named after. And then that's where I get those students, that try to mock and tease other people about their names. I tell them, no, don't be like that. You shouldn't tease about names because we need to be proud of those people that we're named after. And they get really good afterwards. Nobody's teasing anymore. And some people after, when they get to sit and visit after their lessons, they sit and some of them are talking about, boy, that's neat who you're named after. I like your name. And so the past few years I've been focusing on the songs and our names and trying to, talk about our families.
And today I wouldn't want to say that my language is dying because I'm still here, still speaking it. And I'm just, I'm determined to keep it going as far as and long as I could.